The Last Call, a true horror story. They say the scariest stories aren't the ones we see in movies, but the ones that happen in real life. This is a true story, one that took place in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio. It was never explained, never solved, and to this day, it haunts those who were involved. It all started with a simple phone call. Emily, a 24-year-old college student, had just moved into a new apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap and quiet. A perfect place to focus on her studies. Or, at least, that's what she thought. That first night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., her phone rang. A loud, sharp ring that cut through the silence of the apartment. The caller ID read, "Unknown number." Half asleep, she ignored it, assuming it was a mistake. But the next night, at the exact same time, it happened again. By the third night, she started feeling uneasy. Who would call at this exact time, every night? That's when she decided to answer. "Hello?" At first, there was nothing. Just silence. Then, a whisper. A deep, rasping voice, barely audible. "You should have never moved in." Her heart stopped. Before she could react, the call cut off. The next few days, weird things started happening. She would wake up to find her bedroom door slightly open, even though she was sure she had closed it. Objects weren't where she left them. A picture frame fell off the wall in the middle of the night. One night, as she was studying, she heard a faint creaking noise from the hallway. Like footsteps, but slow, deliberate. Holding her breath, she tiptoed to the door and looked through the peephole. Nothing. She laughed nervously, convincing herself it was just paranoia. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. Desperate for answers, Emily asked her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, if she knew anything about the apartment. The old woman's face turned pale. She hesitated, then whispered, "You're not the first girl who lived there. The last tenant." She vanished. And before she did, she kept getting strange calls too. Emily's stomach twisted into knots. Was this some kind of joke? Or was she really in danger? That night, she decided to record the call. She placed her phone on the table, hit record, and waited. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the phone rang. Hands trembling, she answered. This time, the voice was different, more aggressive, more distorted. "You can't run, Emily. I'm already inside." Her breath caught in her throat. She turned her head slowly. And there, in the reflection of the dark window, she saw it. A shadowy figure, standing behind her. Screaming, she grabbed her phone and ran out of the apartment. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. She never went back. The next morning, she sent her landlord a message saying she was moving out immediately. To this day, the apartment remains empty. No one dares to live there anymore. And the calls? They never stopped. But now, they come from her number. Sometimes it's better not to answer unknown calls. You never know who or what might be on the other end.